Shalom. It cut off. Continuing on. So it says medical and historical records. All right. Matter of fact, I'm going to keep reading. So it says religious and social conflict. Religious leaders strongly oppose the choice, viewing it as a betrayal of the covenant with the Most High. In response, traditional authorities changed circumcision rules to remove more skin, making the reverse procedure harder to do. All right, and this is like, what Jake was doing so they could, not do that. So let's see what's going some more. All right, and matter of fact, I'm going to bring out this precept to back that up, because this is why Paul was saying this. This is why Paul was saying this to the Israelites that were in Corinth. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 18. It says, if any man called being circumcised, let him not become circumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision, let him not be circumcised. All right, so now we go into the historical context of it. All right. So I put 1 Corinthians 7 and 18 historical context. In 1 Corinthians 7 and 18, Paul advises believers not to change their ethnic or social status after conversion. It says, writing, was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcision? Let him not seek circumcision. So now let's go into it. So it says culture and social pressure. Social passing in Greco-Roman baths. In the ancient Hellenistic world, public nudity in gymnasiums and bathhouses meant Jewish men who wanted to avoid discrimination or ridicule sometimes underwent a painful surgical procedure called epispasm to reverse the physical appearance of circumcision. So just showing you, all right, the history of epispasm that Israelites, this is what they were doing to fit in society. All right. And this was a great example of how, Israelites forsook the law. OK, just to preserve their life. OK, just so they could, to fit in. All right. Because matter of fact, I'm going to go get that real quick. And First Maccabees. Let me see. Let me go all the way to the bottom. Yep. This is First Maccabees. I'm gonna start from verse 53. So this is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 53. And matter of fact, verse 52. I'm starting from verse 51. Salakia. Ooh, it goes deep. So we're going to read from 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41. So it reads, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So this is what Israelites were doing. They basically consented with Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, that they would basically put off all the ways of the Lord and adopt their religion and culture. So it says, for the king has sent letters by messengers into Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they shall follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they shall profane the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they shall also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. All right. And this is what our people were actually participating in. They were sacrificing swine's flesh. They was eating abominable foods. They were setting up sacrificing to idol gods. Greek gods. Okay? It says, verse 49, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever will not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. Okay? So this is what I was saying earlier, that if Israelites weren't, comprehending or how can I say it, who are obliging with, these Greco ways, they were being put to death. Okay? It says, let me jump down. Let me see. Let me jump down. Verse 57, it says, and whosoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. So they were putting Israelites to death, those who were still reading the scriptures, keeping the law, statutes, commandments, keeping the Sabbath days holy. So Jake had to be, do these things in secrecy in order just to live. But you had a lot of, Israelites who just said, you know what, fuck it, man, to make my life easier, I'ma just oblige and, with the king's commandment. And same thing today. These same things are happening today. You're going to see a lot of people in the time of, Jacob's trouble, when the dollar crash, all right, they're going to oblige, all right, and take that microchip just so they can fit in society. Because the scriptures say you cannot buy or sell without that mark, all right, without that karagma. So it's the same thing. And this is why you have to keep, this is a good thing to always go into the history to keep us, sharp and as a reminder, there's nothing new under the sun. All right. And we just got to pray that we are the Lord's elect. All right. But Lord willing, this is edifying. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And with that, shalom.